पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome back to the Bhagavad Gita thematic discussion on the introduction essay and the preface essay. So we have been seeing the introduction, and up till now we have discussed the Mangalacharan, and then we have seen the concept of Mangalacharan. We began with the first theme, the spirit of the Bhagavad Gita, and in the first paragraph, what are the topics which we learn in Upanishads, what Upanishads teach, because Bhagavad Gita is called as Gita Upanishads. So we saw in this, Sambandha Vidya Prayojan Tattvatraya, all these concepts we saw, and application of Sambandha Vidya Prayojan. Yesterday we did that. Now we went into the next paragraphs 2, 3, uh, paragraphs 4. Also, we saw paragraph 5, 6, and 7 and 8. Yeah, we concluded, therefore, Bhagavad Gita should be taken in the spirit of. That means the whole discussion in paragraphs 2 to 8 is based on this statement which Prabhupada makes that as far as I have seen, nobody touches the spirit of the Bhagavad Gita. That is the point Prabhupada makes in paragraph 1. We saw that, right? Uh, they have expressed their own opinions and without touching the spirit of the Bhagavad Gita. So, what is the spirit of the Bhagavad Gita? From yesterday's discussion, who will answer? What is the spirit of the Bhagavad Gita, which we were discussing yesterday? Who will answer? Shubha Ikshana Krishna Prabhuji.
Prabhu, to reach the uh, prayojana, which is
That is the spirit of the Bhagavad Gita. To accept the spirit of the Bhagavad Gita, Prayojan.
Prabhu Prema.
You're speaking about the terminologies of Sambandha, Vidya, and Prayojan. That is with the Upanishads terminology of Tattvatraya and Sambandha, Vidya, Prayojan. But I'm now speaking about this paragraph. In the first paragraph, Prabhupada says Bhagavad Gita is essentially Gita Upanishads, and there are many editions, but as far as Prabhupada is seen, they are not authoritative because none of the commentators have touched the spirit of the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and they give their own bit. So, what is the spirit of the Bhagavad Gita is my question. That's based on the essay, not based on the concept of Tattvatraya or a Sambandha Bhidya Prayojan. What is the spirit of the Bhagavad Gita? Prabhupada is saying. What is the spirit of the Bhagavad Gita? Yesterday you were there.
Yes, Prabhu.
Oh.
That it should be taken up without any interpretation. Prabhupada is.
It should be taken as intended by the speaker.
Yes.
As intended by, it should be taken or directed as by the speaker himself, as the doctor directs the patient to take. And the speaker himself is saying that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is Bhagavan. So this is the
Yes.
spirit of the, and great acharyas accept. Shastras say, and Arjuna also says, and he quotes also what? That, that ahustva rishayam sarve deva rishis narazastara, So, you know, uh, it should be accepted in the parampara, most importantly. Hmm? And it is meant for devotees who are in the relationship with the Lord, and it should be accepted as Arjuna accepted, and all the great acharyas accepted it, you know. So we have to accept this. Without accepting the Bhagavad Gita as the principal hearer, Arjuna has accepted, we cannot enter into the spirit of the Bhagavad Gita. That's the point. It should be taken up in the spirit of devotion, bhakti, bhakta. Otherwise, we cannot enter into the mystery of the Bhagavad Gita. That's the point. So one has to accept the Bhagavad Gita in a submissive spirit. Otherwise it's very difficult to understand because it's a great mystery. So accepting the absolute truth as the supreme is a very important aspect because the supreme himself declares that he is supreme. And yesterday we saw few verses, Matta Paratram Nanyat Aham Sarvasya Prabho. So, and we try to interpret in our own ways. So, what is the right way to interpret Shastras? That's what is today we are going to study the concept of Tatparya Lingas. Now, how many of you have come across, how many of you have not come across this Tatparya Lingas? Raise your hands. Raise your hands first. Okay. Uh, Chakrama Prabhuji, what about you? You have heard this Tatparya Lingas? Yes, you also not heard. None of them have heard. See, okay, you can lower your hands. So I'm sure, we have not been trained in studying, Shastra based on terminologies. So, how to actually understand the conclusive meaning of a treatise or a book or a text or a verse? So, today we'll go through the Tatparya Lingas and please hear very carefully. And after we hear this, then I will stop for question answers. And then after that, we will do some small exercise to apply the concept of Tatparya Lingas to understand a verse. And then we will end this discussion. So that's the whole discussion because Prabhupada mentioned that one should accept in the spirit of devotion, one should accept the Supreme Personality Godhead and not interpret. So how do we understand that Sri Krishna is Bhagavan? Because he's speaking in the verses of Bhagavad Gita. So how to rightly interpret the verses using Tatparya Lingas? Okay, please hear very carefully and try to understand this subject. It's not easily understood. It is little philosophical. So please carefully hear and try to understand. You're all first time coming across it. The whole thing of all these is that we have a logical understanding how to approach the study of knowledge. So, every field, there's a particular framework required to understand. That framework has to be built. Otherwise, we cannot approach that subject of knowledge. So, for us to study the Vedas, we have to be trained in Vedangas, which we are not trained. And over a period of time, studying Prabhupada books, we should become trained like that. And so, between the Panchanga, the Tatparlingas, and the grammar, then we should have a very solid basis for how to approach, discuss, and analyze scriptures. So, based on Panchanga, how do you apply the Panchanga? Who will tell me? Who will tell me? How will you apply Panchanga? Very well. Who will tell me this? Nandini Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Okay. In Panchanga Nyaya means like I didn't get the question exactly.
No, you see, when you're reading scriptures, how do you apply Panchanga?
So we can see how they are related to each other.
What are the terminologies in that?
Sambandha, Nyan, Abhidheya or Provision.
Within this Panchanga, there are Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojan. The first three are Sambandha. The fourth, the means of attaining the Brahman, that is Abhideya. And the status of the Jiva in the state of Mukti, that is the Prayojan. So you study the Shastras based on Panchangana and the Tatparlingas and grammar. Grammar is what? In Sanskrit, what is grammar called?
Vyakarana.
Vyakarana. So we are not going to study Vyakarana. We are going to study Srila Prabhupada books. Word to word
Hmm.
meaning, right? That's how
Yes.
we understand. the deeper understanding. That's how Tatparlingas are used for analyzing the ascernment, purport, or meaning conveyed in the scripture. So this is what is the definition of Tatparling. Is is used for analyzing the assertment, purport, or meaning conveyed in a scripture. So what is the purport of this verse? What is the meaning of this verse? Not that you concoct and interpret your own meaning. This approach is used mainly for our own benefit and is therefore referred to as Swa-Artha Anuman, as opposed to Panchangna, which is known as Parartha Anuman, method used for convincing others. So basically, when we take the Bhagavad Gita course, Jiva, Jagata, Ishvara, all that, yeah, we are using this for, convincing others. But for our own benefit, we use this Tatparlinga. That's why it's called as Swa-Artha Anuman. You present something according to the Panchanga Nyaya, but you understand or study something according to the Tatparlingas. Means if you want to know a specific point, if you want to know a specific what is the meaning of the scripture, then, for your own Swarth, you study that is based on Tatparlinga. Means the presentation is Panchangana, therefore you will analyze the Panchangana. But to understand what fully comes out, what is very important within it, then the Tatpara Lingas help in that. Just for making sure that we understand what is important. So among the verses of the Bhagavad Gita, all we can study using Panchangana, which is Samyanda verse, Abhidaya verse. But now that's not it. What is Sambandha verse? What is Abhidaya? But what is now the essence of this book? How to, what to understand, what is the purport of, the whole discussion in this book. So that's why the Tatparlingas are required. To better understand the intent of Tatparlingas, let us consider the following analogy. The government enact laws, but later in the course of their enforcement, doubts may arise with regard to their intention. Another law is then enacted to settle its meaning. This is the law of interpretation, Mimamsa. In this way, Uttar Mimamsa Vedanta is the law of interpretation for the Vedas, which constitute the eternal law of the Lord. So there are the Vedas. There are the Vedas. There are the Vedas which are given. They are eternal, the eternal laws. But now, from the Vedas, these laws are generated. And Vedanta, written by Vyasdev, he says this is the meaning of the Vedas. Vedeshu sarver ahameva vedyo. Sometimes this line scribes in, and I have heard that I have to come out in the Zoom and maybe do something here. I don't know what is to be done, but it goes away. I don't know what is it. Anyone knows can share that. So basically, there are different darshans. They say that Sankhya is the Prakriti is the cause of everything. But Vedanta gives the ultimate conclusion of the Vedas that the Supreme Lord is the cause of everything. So Vedanta is the law of interpretation of the Vedas, you know. So like that, Tatpara Lingas are like that. Thus, Tatpara Lingas are certain indicators within the Shastra or text itself that help determine its purport. So there are certain indicators. Linga means indicators, within the text that help to determine its purport. According to Mimamsa Shastra, there are 6 ways to determine the meaning of a Vedic pronouncement or Vedavakya. The acharyas or commentators of Shastra does determine the purport of the Shastra by the principle of Shadvida Lingas or 6 characteristic signs. So Tatparya Linga. There are 6 Shadvida Lingas, 6 character signs. These 6 are known as the principle of Shadvida Lingas or 6 characteristic signs, otherwise also known as Tatparya Lingas. Tatparya means to find out the purport of a text, purport of a book, purport of a summary study. And Tatparya means Tatparya, and Lingas means there are symptoms, characteristics. So this is the standard Vedic understanding of how to find out exactly what's the main point within either an individual text or a chapter, an article, or a whole book, whatever it is, the principle always apply. So you can apply Tatparyalinga to a text, to an entire chapter or an article or a whole book. What is the Tatparya? Okay, now let's see what is that verse. These indicators are described in the following verse. I think it is in the Chandogya Upanishads. Upakrama upasamharo abhyasapurvata phalam artvadapatti chalingam tatparya nirnaye. Upakrama upasamhara. Upakrama means the beginning and the end. Upasamhara means the end. Abhyasa, repetition. So what is repeated? So you have to see the beginning of the verse or beginning of the text or beginning of the book, then the end. Then abhyas, what is repeated. Apurvata, uniqueness. And phalam, the result. And arthavad upapatti, praise and illustration. Lingam. These are the indicators, tatparya, in ascertaining the purport. The beginning and the end. Repetition, uniqueness, result, praise, and illustration are the sixfold indicators in ascertaining the purport of a text. This is coming from the Chandogya Upanishads. I mentioned it is from the Chandogya Upanishads. Thus, according to the above verse, in order to understand any piece of Vedic literature, it is essential to know the purport of its subject matter. For ascertaining the purport, first one tries to grasp the meaning of what is said in the introduction and the conclusion of the subject in question. So first, if you want to know the purport of a certain text or a certain book, see what is the upakrama and what is the upasamhara. One then looks for statements that are repeatedly stated. This is called as, anyone? What this is called as? Govinda Nandini Mataji. Are you there with us?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Repetition.
Repetition is called as what in Sanskrit? Abhyas. Abhyas. Upakramaha, upasamhara, abhyas, repetition. Repeatedly stated. That praise the subject matter. Praise is what? Arthopapatyati, that give the uniqueness of the topic, that is apurvata, and that convey the results, phala. So you have to see in this book, where is abhyas, and then the arthopapatti, and then the apurvata, and then the phala. In addition, one looks for illustrations used in text to describe the subject in question. Okay. I hope you are all with me. This is a little philosophical. You have to be very, very attentive to hear. We'll take up questions. Let me finish these 6 things, then I will take up. In addition,
Prabhuji,
one looks
can
for
you go
illustration.
little slow, Prabhuji?
Pardon?
And can you go little slow?
Slow. Okay. Okay. Upakrama, upasammara, abhyasa, apurvata, phalam, artvada, upapatti, chalingam, tatparya, nirnay. So upakrama, upasammara is beginning of the text or beginning of the book or end of the book. Abhyasa is what is repeated. Apurvata is what is the uniqueness in that. And phalam is what is the result and what is the praise and illustration in that. So that is what is being discussed here, For ascertaining the purport, one tries to grasp the meaning of what is said in the introduction and the conclusion of the subject in question. Then one looks for statements that are repeated, the praise of the subject matter and the uniqueness of the topic and what that convey the results. And then in addition, one looks for illustration used in the text to describe the subject in question. If there are illustrations given, these illustrations are illustrating something. So what is being illustrated? To facilitate our understanding, let us briefly dive into the sweet ocean of Vedanta philosophy. Okay, now let's go into these. The Tatparya Linga state that the concluding portion of the work contains its essence. Thus, Vedanta, being the concluding portion of the Vedas, delineates the purpose of the Vedas. So now we are applying this Tatparya Linga to understand, go into the Vedas and Vedanta. Accordingly, though a variety of subjects are presented in the Vedas, all of them have a singular purpose of leading us to the Vedantic inquiry into the absolute truth, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. As Prabhupada mentioned before, Athato Brahma is point because that is the opening point of Vedanta Sutra. So Vedanta Athato Brahma Jigyasa. So now can somebody tell me what is the Upakrama? In the Upanishads or in the Vedanta, what is the Upakrama? Let us see who will answer. Upakrama is beginning. Okay. Nandini Mataji, what is Upakrama?
Brahma Jigyasa.
Athato Brahma Jigyasa.
Yeah.
Why it is Upakrama?
Because it's Vedas all begin with that ki inquiry about its existence.
Yeah. The work begins with Atato Brahma Jigyasa. And okay, you have got it. Very good. And then Vedanta Sutra is the end of the Vedanta. So what is the beginning and what is the end is important. So the Vedas always start with Om. It starts with Purushukta and it ends with Vedanta Sutra. So Vedas start with Om in the Purushukta. Om, starts always and it ends with Vedanta Sutra. Then we can understand from this that this is important. Then the whole Vedic work can be viewed through this understanding. What is therefore being given in the Vedanta Sutra is how one will interpret the whole Veda. For thus it works nicely. We are following the Uttar Mimamsa. So the Vedanta is the declaration of Uttar Mimamsa. So then it works out very nicely because, like also we said here, it follows in an end. It gives a conclusion. Veda Anta. So, like this, there are 6 schools and each have their own way they interpret the Veda. You have Vyas way from the Vedanta Sutra and other 5 authors. Having established the purpose of the Vedas, let us analyze according to the Tatparlingas, the 6th chapter of the Chandogya Upanishads, which explicitly illustrates the 6 indicators I have discussed below. So, in the 6th chapter of the Chandogya Upanishads, each of these Tatparlingas have been explicitly given. Okay, I don't know why the animation is not done for this. Oh, why it is not done? This is very bad. Yeah, rest all are done. Okay, so that we can focus, Some devotees refer to this as Jamini Mimamsa. So this is Chandogya Upanishad. Chandogya Upanishad for us is special because it is Samveda. It is the Upanishads from the Samveda. Okay, from it should be. So we in Lord Chaitanya's line are following Samvedi tradition of the Samskars. Gopal Bhatta Goswami gave us the Samskar according to Samveda. So it is very special for us because we follow Samveda. Chandogya Upanishad falls in Samveda and Gopal Bhatta Goswami gave Samskars from the Samveda. Upakrama, Upasamara. The harmony of the initial and the concluding passages. Upakrama means the initial part of the work and Upasamara the conclusion. These two refer to the beginning and the end of the topic, which reveal what is meant to be conveyed. Please mark this. So, in the beginning and in the end, reveal what is to be conveyed. Thus, if the first and the concluding parts of the work speak of the same idea, it is to be taken as its subject. Hmm? You know, then you should take that this is the subject. Upakrama, Chandogya Upanishads. Sadeva Samya Idamagra Asit. In the beginning, O dear one, all this was one truth. alone. So this is a verse in the Chandogya Upanishad, 6th chapter, as it was mentioned. Upasamhara. Aityadatman atmayam idam sarvam. The absolute truth is the self of everything. Both Upakrama and Sumar indicate the nature of the absolute truth, who is the super soul of all. So you can understand that actually the subject is the Lord, the super soul, the absolute truth. From the Upakarma, from the beginning verse and the last verse, Upakrama and Upasamhara. You can see in the beginning, dear one, all this was one truth alone. So Deva, and he's everything, that's how it is ending. So we also see in Manu, it opens with the point that the sages are interested to know about Varnashram. That is in connection with the Supreme, so that one can know the Supreme. And the last verse says that for a Brahmana who studies this, then he will perfect his life because he will be able to connect everything to the Lord. So then we understand that the connection of the activities of oneself to the Lord, which is actually the point of the book. So then you will see all the other texts in Manu or here in Chandogya in that connection. So once you know the Upakrama and the Upasamhara, then you can connect that, the subject matter of the text is this. Everything in between you will be able to connect. So you have to see the beginning and the end, Upakrama and the Upasamhara. Okay. So in the Varnashram, the sages are interested about Varnashram that is in connection with the Supreme. So in between, you see the whole, so that we can know the Supreme. And the last verse, it mentions that, one who knows this, he'll be able to connect everything to the Lord. So in between, the whole Manu Samhita is only speaking about, Varnashram. But, you have to see the beginning and the end. There is the Varnashram in connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And here also, the Brahmana who knows Varnashram in connection with the Supreme Lord, he is successful. He's able to connect everything to the Supreme Lord. So if you don't see this and only read this work, then you think, oh, this is completely material, you'll see. Because you're not seeing the connection before, So that's why you have to see the Upakrama and the Upasamhara, beginning and the end. Interesting that almost, I think, all the Shastras open with creation. That's already your Upakrama. Can you tell in the Bhagavatam how it opens up with? Anyone? Haribol. Who will tell? The Bhagavatam beginning verse. Bhagavatam beginning verse. What is the Upakrama? I hope everyone knows this. Bir Krish Prabhuji. Haribol. Bir Krish Prabhu. Are you there with us?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. What is the beginning verse of the Bhagavatam?
It's a Prabhu. Janmadhyasya Tonvyad Vitras.
So it's beginning with what?
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It
So
starts with Om.
it's beginning with creation, right?
Yes.
It's beginning with creation. And what is the end verse of Bhagavatam?
And verse, I don't know.
What is the end verse?
And verse, I don't know.
End verse of Bhagavatam. Nama Sankirtana Sarva Papa Pranashanam. Last verse. Nama Sankirtanayasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranamamo Dukh Shamanas Tam Namami Harim Param. So Satyam Param Dhimahi, meditate on the absolute truth. And one should, offer Namami Hari Paramam, again, there is a, and the means is, to realize is to chant the holy names. So Upakrama and Upasamharo, from that you can understand. So interestingly, that almost all the Shastra Upana, and that's already your Upana, and there must be something that the point is in connection with the Lord. But others not understanding this or having a different method of interpretation, they change this approach. So why I'm discussing this Tatparya Linga is because people are not trained in Tatparya Lingas, they interpret in between the text something else because they don't know how to read a book. It is very obvious in the book that it opens this way and closes this way. Therefore, everything in the middle has to be used that way. So that means, what does the Bhagavatam actually speaks of? Tell me, anyone? What does the Bhagavatam speak of? Seeing the opening verse and the end verse now. What does the Bhagavatam speak of? Bir Krishnaji.
It speaks about true glory of Lord, basically, Lord, glory of Lord.
Glory of chanting the holy name of the Lord.
Yes, yes.
It starts with, Sut Goswami glorifying Apanya Samskritim Gauram, then in the middle, Ajamil, and in the end, this
Yes, yes, yes.
it's chanting of the glories, And Hare Namanu Kirtanam, Sukdev Goswami also says. And then Parikshit also in the 10th canto, speaks about it. Nivritta Tarsher Upagiyamana. So it's chanting about the glories of the Lord. So that's how we have to understand Upakrama and Upasamhara. I hope you are able to get now some understanding. Therefore, everything in the middle has to be used in that way. So all the various aspects of Varnashram or in here the Upanishad are to be used in connection with the Lord and not in some other way. So in the beginning there is creation and the Lord is pervading everything. So you have to keep that in the center and see all the verses in between. I hope you are able to connect. So people will say, oh, that is not devotional. No, but it is meant to be devotional. If you are not seeing it as devotional, then you have missed the point. The book is written as a system in devotion to the Lord. How do you understand the Bhagavad Gita in terms of beginning and ending statements? Okay, now tell me, what is the beginning statement of and the end statement of Bhagavad Gita? Who will tell? Let us see. Who will try this? Beginning. Now we are trying to apply Upakrama and Upasamhara, beginning and end statement of Bhagavad Gita. Who will tell? Raise your hands. Who is going to try? Yeah. Subha Ikshana Krishna Prabhuji. Yes. What is the beginning statement of Bhagavad Gita?
Prabhu, beginning statement is Dhritarashtra Uvacha.
Yeah.
Dharmashetre Kurukshetre
Yeah.
Samaveta Yuyutsava Mamaka Pandavas Chaiva Kim Akurvata Sanjaya.
Okay. What is the end statement?
Prabhu, end is in chapter 18. The last one, it is Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno Yatra Partho Dhanurdhana Tatra Sharir Vijayo Buddhir Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama.
That is the end statement. Are you sure?
Yes, Prabhu. Last verse.
Then you have not understood what is Upakrama and Upasamhara. Just because I read Bhagavatam first verse and last verse, you also took like that. Gita also. Gita first is okay. In the first statement, what is what is the what is what is being spoken there? What is going to be discussed?
Situation of the army.
My goodness. I don't know. I'll have to go back to school now. Just pick up one term and see what is ultimately Krishna teaching in the Bhagavad Gita.
Dharma.
Ah, correct?
Yes.
And what is that dharma? Tell me now, the upasamhara now. What is the highest dharma?
To surrender to Krishna, the
What is
Supreme
that
Personality.
verse?
18.66.
Sarvadharman
Paritajya.
Paritejya. So what is Upakrama verse and what is Upasamhara verse? 1.1 and 18.
66.
So you have to see the entire Bhagavad Gita based on
These two words.
Sarvadharman
Paritajya.
Paritejya. So that's why you see Prabhupada purports, all the purports he speaks about surrender. And scholars, professors, they don't understand. And they write, yeah, Swamiji, the verse is speaking something else and he is writing purport something else. And they criticize him because they are not studying Tatparilingas. They don't know what is Tatparilinga. Prabhupada is writing his purports based on Tatparilinga. How perfect is Prabhupada, you can see, right?
Yes,
You
Prabhu.
have Dharma Kshetre, so the place of Dharma, and then you end with Sarva Dharman Pariteja. So you should understand Dharma has to be performed, but it has to be performed in connection with Krishna. It is not necessarily so obvious. You do not have the author and his presentation. Why do you write a book unless there is something important or different or unique? So he's trying to bring out that. Okay, Upakrama and Upasamhara. Do you have any questions now? Did you understand this? I know that first time you're getting this understanding and it is little sometimes difficult to catch the concept. Yes.
Prabhu, is it in nutshell that whenever we are reading, we have to always remember the context or the background?
Not really like that. The context can be anything, but what is the subject being discussed? Not the context. The context is a battlefield, but what is being taught there? Dharma. What is the highest dharma? Varnashram is, maybe the discussion is happening on a yagya field, between Janmejaya and Vaishampayan. It's during a Sarpa Yagya. The context, what are you going to do with the context? But in what connection the subject is being discussed? What is the beginning of the work? What is the end of the work? And what is then the main theme, everything which is coming in the work, then you'll understand it. That is how we have to see it. Are you getting it or no?
Yeah, but this will always be the same, Prabhu, throughout the whole scripture, that particular scripture, or that can also change.
It depends. It depends. Now we are not trained in trying to understand. It requires a lot of expertise. Now we have to go by just the examples which we know. We are not trained in this. Only acharyas are trained in it. They can understand seeing a book, what this book, is teaching from the beginning. Like atato karma jigyasa. Atato karma jigyasa means what? Tell me.
What is our duty? Tato karma jigyasa.
What is atato karma jigyasa?
What is the purpose of this human form of life?
That is Brahma jigyasa. What is atato karma jigyasa? I'm asking, Baba.
Means our prescribed duties, karma.
Now we need to analyze, do an inquiry about karma. So this karma mimamsa begins with not athato brahma jigyasa, but karma jigyasa.
Okay.
So the karma mimamsa scripture is speaking about analysis of karma. That's the subject of that book. Brahma jigyasa is absolute truth. And the subject is then the absolute truth which is being spoken.
So if some karmi writes, then he will write it as Atato Karma Jigyasa, the whole Bhagavad Gita in that context, in that theme.
No, what he writes, we don't know. He will write, Bhagavad Gita is meant for management. We don't know his own idea, but then only when you read this, then what perspective he is taken up, he will give. But based on Shastra, based on these Shad Lingas, you have to have that. See the work and then. You cannot do that. It requires a lot of expertise.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah, we have to just understand now what these Shadlingas are there. Okay. Any
Yes.
other questions anyone has about this Upakrama and Upasamhara which we have done up till now? Yes, Bir Krishnuji.
Prabhu, so this Tatparlinga also uh, contains this Sambandha Videya Prayojan? I mean, in
No,
nutshell.
no, 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 no. You have to
Mm.
don't mix two concepts in one and make a khichdi. You know, in ISKCON we eat a lot of khichdi, na. So we like khichdi a lot. It's a basic framework. It is, we discussed that Panchangina is, it is meant for convincing others, you know.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Swartha Nirman, when I read one article, you
Mm. Mm.
see how the article begins and what is the conclusion of the article, what is the subject of the article, what is the thing which is repeated in the article. Just
Mm.
try to now study articles and then come out with Tatparya Lingas, then you will start understanding. Until you do
Essence,
this, got it, na?
essence of the whole work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What is the subject, which is
Yes.
speaking out of? So that's
Right.
not to do with Sambandha Abhidheya and Provision. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Any other questions you have regarding Upakrama and Upasamhara? No, na? Okay. So now let's go to Abhyasa. Abhyasa repeated refers to subject matter that is repeatedly stated within the topic. If the same idea or view is repeated in a work, it must be understood as the main theme. So what is the main theme to understand? See Abhyasa. See if the same thing is repeated. Then that will. Therefore, you always see Krishna in the Gita saying, perform your duties in knowledge with detachment, thinking of me, for me. Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyadi mam niraskunu. In 9.4, 3, 4. And then in 18.65, Yeah. He says that many times, so you can understand that this is the theme. There is always something connected with surrender to Krishna, doing everything for Krishna, Sarva Dharman, giving up everything, just surrender unto me, do all your work for me. So we'll go through the examples and it'll become clear. Man mana, bhava, mad bhakto, he's always bringing out this point that you should take shelter of me, practice devotional service in connection with Krishna, performing activities in connection with Krishna. यत् करोषि यद् अस्नासि यद् जुहोसि यद् ददासि यत् तपस्यासि कौन्तेय तत् कुरुस्व मदर्पणम. Whatever, it is there. See, I did not know this one. Whatever you do, eat, offer, give away in charity should be done as a sacrifice to Krishna. So we understand that this is the theme of the work. The Mahavakya Tattvam Asi, thou art, which reveals the relationship of the individual and the Supreme Lord, is repeated 9 times using 9 different examples to establish simultaneous oneness and difference between the individual soul and the super soul. This is also propounded by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at the philosophy of Achintavada. Yeah, I don't know why this sometimes in the middle. Technically, we don't call it Mahavakya because it comes out a lot, and probably because from this Chandogya, then Shankaracharya took it as the main statement. There is nothing called as the Mahavakya. Shankaracharya somehow, made that these are the Mahavakyas. That was his understanding. Maha means great, Vakya means statement, what is spoken. It uses it that you are that. Tattvam Asi. Meaning you are Brahman. You are spiritual. It uses it to do that, but here it is being shown in the Upanishad itself how the living entity connects with the Lord. So then the Achinta Beda element, simultaneous oneness and difference is coming out. So we thus can understand that this is the main underlying theme. Abhyasa. Apurvata. This is the fourth one. Abhyas is third. I don't know why. Abhyas is two, it is mentioned. Interesting, huh? No, it should be four, but anyway, I'll change it later. Uniqueness denotes an idea mentioned for the first time as as background information may be necessary to establish uniqueness. So an idea expressed afresh in the natural course of the presentation is to be taken as the purpose or message intended. Uniqueness denotes an idea presented first time. So that should be taken as the message intended. You are bringing up some new idea, but before that, to get to a new idea, you have to bring someone from where they are at present to the point where they're able to understand, appreciate that this new idea. All that gets you there is not the point. The point is that fresh idea. Then you know that is important. In connection to Chandogya, Apurvata reveals the uniqueness of the subject matter of the Vedas, that which is not known by any other means of knowledge. The truth revealed by the Mahavakya Tattvamasi is Apurvata. For this statement cannot be known by any other means of knowledge. The moment when Krishna explains in Gita what we should combine work and knowledge, that is a unique thing. Combining work with knowledge, very unique. This is a very good example of that uniqueness is that everybody knows karma and everybody knows gyan. But here he is presenting karma and gyan together. That is very unique. Just like everyone knows Advait, everyone knows Dvait. But to present them both simultaneously together, working with no contradiction, that is unique. Work in renunciation. So this is a very unique concept, Purvata. Or that karma and can work simultaneously, that is unique. Otherwise, they don't. Karma, you can't have full knowledge, means you have knowledge of the karma, but you don't have full knowledge. Otherwise, why would you do it? Why would you put so much effort into going to the heavenly planets for a temporary time, thinking that it is amar, deathless? That means that is not so smart. And the Gyanis have knowledge, but they don't do any work. So to take the knowledge of the Gyan and the work of karma and combine it, that is dynamic, apurvata, unique. How about the material desire of the karmi and the lack of work of the Gyani? That is also a popular theme these days. So that is illusionary. No? So that is a very unique because actually our philosophy is unique. So in the Chaturshloki that Krishna says, he has entered into everything. Everything is coming from him. He is everything. At the same time, he is different from it. So this is Apurvata, uniqueness. Achinta Beda Bed Tattva is established. That, he has entered into everything. Everything is coming from him. He is everything. At the same time, he is different from it. That is what he Krishna represents in the. This is something very unique. So we can see that the uniqueness means that there may be so many things that are unique, but the uniqueness is actually to bring out this philosophy because it is the only thing that is really unique. So every thesis, PhD clinics, they have to do some unique new thing which has not done by before. Then only you get a PhD, right? So similarly, Apurvata is something like that. Okay, phala. Fifth, objective, fruit. Phala is the result. If in the course of the work it is stated by acting in this manner, you will gain such and such benefit. The purpose of the work is to persuade you to act in the manner suggested. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshasami masucha. The book will be giving the method to obtain the that result. So therefore, you need the theme. Surrender to the Supreme Lord is a theme. So it says by surrendering, you'll get all benefit. Therefore, you know that this book is teaching you how to surrender. In a word, why six? Because there are different aspects. Because here, phala means your result, your prayojan. Phala is your prayojan. Phalam, the result mentioned in the text, is knowledge about the absolute truth, which brings about liberation. The Upanishad therefore reveals the subject matter to be known for self-realization. The text in the Chandogya Upanishad goes on, Acharyavan Purusha Veda, Tasya Tavadeva Chiram Yavanna Vimoksha Vimokshe Ata Sampatse. The one who has got a teacher knows the truth. Acharyavan Purusha Veda. He knows. He is free in spite of his limited body. He is free even from the material body once the body dies. So then he is giving the result here. This being the whole point, then the result, you become free from material contamination, free from material entanglement. But to do that, you have to have a teacher. So that is very important. So this book will be showing you how to approach a teacher, how to utilize that knowledge to get out of the material world. So this is the phala which is given. The Bhagavad Gita is also telling Arjuna which yoga you should perform. Krishna speaks in the fourth chapter of different types of yagyas. Then to know which yagya, go to the teacher. Tad vidhi pranipatena, like that. So getting out of the material world means that you are approaching the supreme, so that you get out of the material world and attain the supreme. Okay. Artavad, eulogy, glorification by eulogistic or contemporary passages. Someone was just saying about going to hell. That is what we are discussing before. So is you, here is you are using the opposite. Here is what the condemnatory will come in. Arthavad is what is eulogized. If in narrating a story, a particular matter receives special praise, this particular point must be regarded as the purpose of work or speech in question. In this Upanishad, Arthavad refers to those statements that praise the subject matter. Thus, the absolute truth is praised as being endowed with powers of creation, sustenance, and dissolution. So, the praise of the subject, So, in Bhagavatam, there are beautiful praises by the, pure devotees, the Adi Devas. The Lord is having Shaktis by which he creates. So, that is Arthavad. Like in the Gita, you have all these chapters. The middle 6 chapters are talking about the Supreme Lord and devotional service. To describe the Supreme, you have 3 chapters where they talk about the universal form. Yeah, so there is the 11th chapter, the 10th chapter, all that. It is technically not the universal that is formed. It is the person being described through that discussion. That's how we take the important point out of the prayers of demigods. So many prayers will be there, but the point is what is being glorified. It's certain position or potency. So that is coming from the Supreme Lord. So that is about Arthapatti. Arthapatti? Arthavad, sorry, not Arthapatti. So we don't have any problems with those prayers because we know that they are coming from the Supreme Lord. Or if they are condemnatory statements, then we know that what is condemning is the opposite of what you're trying to obtain. So both we see in the Arthavad and Apurva uniqueness, there may be so much background information being given or things that are there that is not specifically the main point. Okay. Oh, Upakrama and Upasamhara are taken together. That is one. Correct then. Then Upapatti is logic. If a viewpoint is established through reasoning, it must be treated as a subject of the work concerned. If a viewpoint is established through reasoning, logic, in Chandogya Upanishads, the Upapatti refers to the principle by which the knowledge of the absolute truth is logically supported by examples. One example is that golden ornaments, which is revealed in the Chandogya Upanishads as follows. See, Yata Sommekena Lohamanina Sarvam Lomamayam Vigyatam Syat. Oh dear one, just as by knowing one lump of gold, all God ornaments made of gold become known. In the same manner, the Supreme Leader Lord is the basis of everything. Knowing the Lord, one becomes as well the knower of everything. Just knowing a lump of gold, all gold ornaments are known because they are all made of the same thing. So, by knowing the Lord, one knows everything. Going through it again, Upakrama and Upasamhara, the opening and the closing are always going to reflect what the theme is. But because someone will always discuss things according to that, abhyas, repetition, something that is brought up again and again, that's what the person discussing it, that's how you notice someone keeps coming back to the same point. Then you start to see here is some importance there, some main theme is there. Then Apurvata, how you bring in out a special way or make it a unique amongst what is being presented so you understand it is special. So that also establishes it as a theme. Phala, the result being given, the result, then you understand that the work is what is going to get you the result. So that result is important as theme. The method, to get it is important. Then Arthavad means you are going to glorify something because anything that you glorify, that makes it important. Then Upati, logicality, if you establish something through reason, you are going through many steps, then that brings you to some kind of a like conclusion. Then you can understand what comes at that conclusion. That is what's important, not the steps you went through. The language is a little difficult. Otherwise, one may get distracted and add something, and you think it is one thing when it is actually another. Because so many of these things, you are going to give an example of something. So the example is not what's important, but the thing that you are going to give an example about is important. That you are establishing logic. Then what is the conclusion of that? That is what's important. So sometimes we tell stories, but ultimately to establish the Supreme Lord, you know. So we use that. So that logic, what is used in the story, the nirnay, the conclusion has to be known. So that's what. So all these show different angles of the same thing. You're trying to understand the theme, then all these different aspects are to bring out because you are going to have logic, examples, glorification, specialness, or repetition used to bring out that points. Ultimately, all these things are pointing out to point one theme, but ultimately these are from different angles, some through logic, some through arthavad, some through upapatti, some through upasamara and upakrama, apurvata, like that. Okay, so that ends the discussion on the Tatparlinga. And if you have any questions, wait. Application of the concept of Tatparlingas to understand scriptures. When we study this, it will become clear. Okay. उपक्रम उपसंहारो अभ्यास पूर्वतः फलम अर्थवाद उपपत्ति च लिंगम तात्पर्य निर्णय उपक्रम उपसंहार अभ्यास अपूर्वत फलम अर्थवाद उपपत्ति च लिंगम तात्पर्य निर्णय. So this refers to उपक्रम. Upakama is what is the beginning of the work. Upasama is what is the ending the book. Abhyas is often used to mean practice, like abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagya. Practice means to do something again. So abhyas refers to what is being repeated many times. Apurva refers to what is unique, which is unique, that which is present here in a particular book, but is not present elsewhere. Phalam means in a book, in several places, the Phalashruti is given what will happen when one reads this book, what is the end result, what will one get. Then there is Arthavad Upapatti. Arthavad means one can look at what is being praised in the book, what is being commented, what is being praised, what is being glorified. And Upapatti is the general thread of reasoning of the book. So by these 6 characteristics, Lingam, Tatparna, Nirnayasho, if you want to arrive at a conclusion meaning of a book, Linga, the characteristics of these 6. So Jiva Goswami in Sandarbha uses this to analyze, to arrive at the meaning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, essential meaning. Of course, it is an elaborate subject, but simply speaking, it is Upakrama Upasamhara. Upakrama in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, talking about, it begins with the universal question. The first 2 verses we see, 111, there's a definition of the absolute. So there is meditation on one specific person. It's Janmadhyasya Dhimai, let us meditate. So it begins with a universal question. Let us meditate. If you want to look at another way, the meaning of Bhagavatam, there is a questions by the sages of Narmisha, and those questions are also universal. What is the best dharma? What is the essence of all scriptures? What is the most important duty for me? To meditate on the absolute truth. There are many other books which begin with, say, please tell us the glories of Shiva, please tell us the glories of Devi, please tell us the glories of Ganesh, of Kartikeya. So these books, they may contain valuable things. They may also be called scriptures, but they are not universal in their scope. So if you want to know what is the essential measure, we can see it begins with universal questions. So Bhagavatam is very universal. It doesn't ask, tell us the glories of Krishna. No. Satyam Param Dhimai. What is the essence of all scriptures? Is to practice bhakti to Bhagavan. How? By bhakti anga is kirtan. Hare Namanu Kirtanam. Like that. Upakrama, then Upasama. Upasama means conclusion. What is the conclusion of Bhagavad? We see the conclusion is Bhakti, Nama Sankirtan. That is the verse which we conclude. Sarva Papa Pranashani, Pranamo Dukkha Shamanas, Tam Namami Harim Padim. So it concludes with Bhakti. So I already discussed this, Upakrama Upasamhara. So it begins with universal conscience and it is answered in 1 to 6. Sabai Pumsan Paro Dharma itself. That is the greatest dharma is Bhakti. So that's the conclusion. So of course the conclusion is also, if you want to take another level of conclusion, is Paraksman meditating on the absolute truth and hearing the Supreme Lord while he departs from this world, which is also Smaranam, which is Bhakti. He is doing Shravanam, he is doing Smaranam and he departs. Then Abhyas. Abhyas is what is repeated, what is repeated. Now, some sections of the Bhagavatam can be interpreted in an impersonalistic way. Some say, some passages from teachings of Kabila, some verses from Uddhav Gita. But if you look at the pastimes, if you look at the most repeated thing in canto after canto, we see pastimes of devotion. Yeah, there is, Kapila is speaking about liberation by Gyan and Ashtanga. Uddhav Gita is also speaking about liberation. So you might see that, array, this theme is different. But if you see most, what is repeated is the pastimes of devotion. So that's Abhyasa. We see Kunti Maharaj's praise, Bhishma's departure from the world. We see Arjuna's consciousness when Krishna has departed. We see Parikshit Maharaj's prayers for devotional consciousness. Then there are pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prithu Maharaj, and there are pastimes of great sages also, like Garg Muni, Kapil Dev. So all of them we see are devotees. So if we look at repetition abhyas, it is bhakti which is repeated. So bhakti is being repeated. Then Apurvata. Apurvata is uniqueness. What is unique in the Srimad Bhagavatam as compared? The uniqueness can be in various aspects. Most of the Puranas in Sanskrit are very simple. Their verse structures are very simple. The Bhagavatam verses are very beautiful, poetic, and rich. So, from the literary point of view, among the Puranas, the Bhagavatam is the most Vedic and Upanishad in its style. But from the content point of view, the Bhagavatam is amongst the biggest Puranas, and in that 335 chapters, thousands of one specialistic part of the Bhagavatam is the 10th canto. In no other book are such so elaborately and so sweetly pastimes of Krishna is described. And what do the pastimes of Krishna focus on? It's all Bhagavan and Bhakti. And what kind of Bhakti? Very intimate Bhakti. The first 40 chapters of the 10th canto focus on Bhakti in a mood of completely free from awe and reverence. It is very intimate devotion. So again, Bhakti is a very special Vraj Bhakti. Purvata of Bhagavatam is Vraj Bhakti. Abhyas Apurvata Phalam. Phalam. What is the fruit that is talked about? There are several places in some pastimes this fruit is talked about. But if we look consistently, the most common fruit that is given is by this one will attain devotion to Lord Vishnu. We see universally all those who have studied the Bhagavatam and commented on it say that the Ras Panchayata is the most important part of the Bhagavatam. So that is the phala. Vikriditam Vrajavadu idam cha Vishnu. So that is the highest phala. Other phalas are mentioned in Gajendra Moksha, one will not have bad dreams and all. But you have to take the unique phala. And what is the phala shruti which comes at the end of this? Oh, it is there here verse. I did not know. It says the last verse of the 33rd chapter of the 10 cantos. Vikriditam vrajavadu biridam cha Vishnu Shraddhayanvito anushuye tatha varnayetya Bhaktim paramam bhagavati pratilabhya kamam Hridroga swapnayoti hachiram achirena dhira. So it says, one who hears these pastimes faithfully, for that person, bhakti arises in the heart, para bhakti, pure devotion, and lust gets washed away. So the promise is not attainment of heaven, phalam. Then Artava Upapatti, eulogy, there are right from the beginning of the Bhagavatam, the prayers and glorification of the absolute truth. Vyasa, right in the first verse, offers this praise, which is actually part of Mangalacharan. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Then there are various praise offered by pure devotees of the Lord right from the first canto till the end. But the highest praise prayers are again in the Ras Panchadhyaya. These are the highest prayers of the topmost premi bhaktas of the Lord, the gopis, and especially Srimati Radharani. Upapatti, the reasoning with which is logically presented to establish the absolute truth. 1, 1, 1, 1 to 11, etc. Srimad Bhagavatam is natural commentary on Vedas. Srila Jiva Goswami and Srila Rupa Goswami in their works establish Srimad Bhagavatam very systematically and logically. Okay, so we saw the Tatparya Linga with respect to the Bhagavatam work. Now I will take another example from the Gita to understand the Tatparya Linga. I will take this example and then take your questions. Okay. So this is now from the Gita. How can we know the Gita's meaning? Check the Gita's message itself. Sarva dharman parityaja. Check the understanding of the original student, 10 to 12. Check the actions of the original student. Look at the Mahabharata, 18.73. Sanjay, you know. So, अव्यक्त व्यक्तिमापन्न मन्यन्ते माम अद्बुद्धे परम भाव जानन्तो मम भव्यम अनुतम. The unintelligent think abuddhaya manyate, that impersonal Brahman has manifested an illusory form as myself. Mam vyaktim apanna. They do not know my transcendental form consisting of form, qualities, and activities. Mam param bhavam ajananto, which are eternal and most excellent. Avyam anuttamam. So, you know, these Mayavadis, they don't understand. They think that the Lord form is made of Maya. And that is why they interpret. So there is scope of Bhagavad Gita where you can think that the absolute truth is made of Maya. Ajopi san avya atma bhuktanam ishwaropi san prakritim swam adhishtaya. Prakriti means his body is made of Prakriti. That's how they interpret. So this is what is interpretation of the Bhagavad Gita. But, is the Bhagavad Gita establishing the absolute truth is impersonal? No. Although there is scope, Krishna gives that scope, because ultimately Mayavadis, some need some room to establish their philosophy. But is the book itself propagating that? For that, let us use the Tatpar Linga. Upakrama, starting, setting, of the scene. Arjuna surrenders to Krishna. And then, I am individual, you are individual. Let's see whether the Bhagavad Gita establishes Mayavad philosophy. That is the theme of Bhagavad Gita. You see, I am an individual, you are an individual, Arjuna. All these kings are individual, and we will continue to be individual in the future. That Krishna doesn't say that, that the individuality will get merged and you'll become one with me. No, I will continue as an individual in the future. Arjuna, you will continue, and all these kings. So individuality is what? Unique. So there is no question of impersonal merging. And then upasamhara sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharam. If there is no, then where abhyasa? Krishna says mat para mayi sarvani karmani. And the avatar tattva 4.35, bhoktaram yagya tapasam, mat para mat chitta, all these verses, yoginam api sarvesham mad gatenantara mayasakta manapartha matta paratran nanyat, mama maya durataya, all these verses, which are given are establishing, abhyas, that this is what is repeated. And what is the uniqueness? Krishna's repeated self-declaration of his supremacy. He's telling that it. And what is consistent and insistent? Intensely personal message. Message of the Gita is personalistic. So that's how you can understand, applying the Tatparya Linga to this verse, that, Krishna is not speaking, the theme of Bhagavad Gita is not Mayavad, So this is Tatparya Linga applied to this verse, So that completes discussion on paragraphs 1 to 8. So next week's class, we will begin with paragraphs 9 to 12, the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, any questions you have on this topic, I can take up now. Found it a little heavy, the topic of Tatparlingas. Yeah, you have to study quite a lot and understand it. And over a long period when you study, then you will little by little get this. I will take another example from Jiva Goswami's Bhagavatam to explain Tatparlinga also. Let me see if I find time that I will add it in the slides. Yes, Bir Krishu, you have a question?
Prabhu, this upapatti logic.
Logic. Hmm.
So this logic, uh, it it seems that this logics will be kind of material logic only.
No, this logic is Shastrayukti. Based on Nyaya Darshan, you have understood how to logically understand. It is logical thinking based on Shastra, not material logic. You have
Okay.
studied the Nyaya Darshan. There are systems of logic, system to think. Based on that,
Okay.
you see the logical thread of connection between the work, from that, it's not abrupt or illogical. Okay.
Right. And
Based on your
Prabhu, this
own, based on your own mundane logic applying, no, which doesn't make any sense, you know.
Prabhu, one more question, Prabhu.
Mm.
This Tatpari Linga, this is being used by, I mean, impersonalists also. If they are using, how come they get different meaning? And
No, they being expert, they have studied the Vedangas, they being expert, they can, prove that this work is, see, how Shankaracharya writes a commentary is he has to, use these tools only, that this is the message of the Vedanta Sutra, you know,
Mhm.
to interpret a work, so that's why he uses the Mahavakyas, because wherever the verses are speaking about a personalistic Lord, array, you don't take it, that those are secondary meanings, leave them. So he's establishing a system that only the Mahavakyas, and then he establishes his philosophy. So that's the defect. So that's why you have to be trained to, understand the defects, if you have, using the work which actually establishes the absolute truth, but as a person, but you are using that work to establish that it represents that Lord is impersonal. You're getting the point?
Yes, yes, bro. But I'm thinking you must such a nice tool, Tatpar Lingat. With that, how can a person miss the main subject matter? How
Yeah,
can he
but
understand?
yeah, it's not so easy. We have to be trained. That's why one who is trained in Shastra, of course, this, please understand, it looks so simple, but you would have gone through years and years of training. One verse somebody composes, na, and you'll have to apply Tatparengala to see whether that verse is according to Siddhanta. Otherwise, there can be, some impersonalistic conclusions also in within that verse composition. We cannot
Mm-hmm.
identify that. That's why any, glorification of the Lord by any great poet, before it had to go to Sarup Damodar, and he used to see whether there is Siddhanta and Rasabad, Ras, Rasabhas, contradiction of rasas. He used to verify and then only present it to Mahaprabhu. You have to be
Mm-hmm.
very expert in Shastra to understand it. Okay?
Right, right. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Nandini Mataji, you have question on
Prabhuji,
Tatparya?
can you please explain Arthavad?
Arthavad is basically glorification. Now, the glorification is of the absolute truth. So there might be verses, glorifying the absolute truth, and he's a, possessor of Shaktis by which he creates, maintains, like Sukdev Goswami's prayers, first prayer. Namasya Purush Nama Parasmay Purushaya Bhuyase Shad Udbhava स्थान निरोध लीलया गृहीत शक्ति तृतीया हृदयहिनाम अंतर्भवाया अनुप्लक्ष वर्तमने. This is glorifying the absolute truth, who accepts the three guna avatars and with the shaktis as three purusha avatars, he creates the universe. So this is glorification. So the glorification is of the creation, but it is in relation to the supreme. So in that sense, it is a glorification of the supreme. Are you getting this point?
Mm-hmm.
So similarly in the Gita, Arjuna is going Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Bhavan, Maya Dakshina Prakriti Suyate Sa Characharan. The Lord Himself is glorifying that this, you know, Prakritim Swam Ashtabhya Vishwajami Aham, you know, again and again I create this, like that.
Hmm.
So this is eulogy, glorification, praise of the Lord's creative powers, his Shaktis. So that's the theme. That's the theme of the work. It's not Brahma who is being glorified in the verses as the creator. Even if there are verses where Brahma is being glorified, but then in a representative sense, it is actually glorification of the Supreme, you have to say. Understood?
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes,
One
Prabhuji.
more hand has been raised. Who was it? Subha Ikshana Krishna Prabhuji. Yes.
Prabhu, in that point number 4 as Phala,
Uh,
shall we also take this like Phala Stuti at the end of each chapter it used to be
yeah,
or
but
no?
you have to see in essence what is the highest phala,
Hmm.
not the phala, the secondary phalas. You know, you have to see the highest phala.
Yes, Prabhu.
The
Got it.
secondary phalas are to, others to, take up to the study. But those who are in the practice of pure devotional service, what exactly the phala is being mentioned, you have to see that. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, then. So thank you very, very much. Now you are all become Vedantic students, trying to understand how to understand a verse based on Tatparya lingas, a work, a book, a verse, One verse we saw, that was this verse. How, based on Tatparya linga, we analyze this verse. This verse, Avyaktam Vyakti Mahapanna. Is it speaking about Mayavad? Because there is some scope. How the Mayavadis, interpret is Avyakta Vyaktim is there, that the unintelligent think Avyakta is impersonal Brahman, Vyakta, Vyaktim, personal. So from the impersonal has come personal like that. But, they think like that. But here what the Mayavadis do, they put a comma. And they say actually the absolute truth is impersonal. From impersonal, he has come to personal form. This is how they interpret. But in Sanskrit, just like in English, you have comma, exclamation. In Sanskrit, there is no like that. So this is what they interpret and try to prove that the Gita is an impersonalistic book. But through the Tatparya Linga, we proved how it is a personalistic book. Okay, that he is the supreme person. So we use the Tatparya Linga for this verse. Then we use the entire Tatparya Linga for understanding Bhagavatam. Okay. Okay. So thank you very, very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrind ki jai. Hare